Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, From the Depths of Darkness to the Light of Success. I am your host, Chris Swick, and on this podcast, we talk about mental health, addictions, eating disorders, ADHD, and really anything anyone's afraid to talk about, we talk about it on the show. I believe everyone's story is valuable at the end of the day. Doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, you're all welcome on my platform to share your story and help one another grow as a whole. But before we get going, head over to the YouTube channel with the same name as the podcast, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and head over to my Instagram page at Depths of Darkside for great mental health tips, fun insights into my personal life, and good clips from the show. But before we get going, with no further ado, I'd love to introduce you to my next guest. I got Alyssa Gill. She's a Canadian singer and songwriter, originally from the Tecumseh area, from right beside one of my favorite cities in Detroit. But now she's living in the big city up in T-Dot. You want to take it away and let them know a little bit about you, Alyssa?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. So I am, a singer-songwriter in Toronto right now. I'm currently working on my next EP, actually, which I'm not giving any deadlines, but hopefully the process can start releasing this year. And, I'm an independent artist. I just started a couple years ago, so I'm really trying to get both of my feet on the ground when it comes to writing and recording. And my passion is writing and co-producing.
What was the driving force for you to pursue a career in music? And was there someone who was an inspiration to you growing up?
I would have to say, honestly, I even asked my mom that question. I'm like, what happened? And she was just like, honestly, out of nowhere, she always had spunk to you and you always just loved being the center of attention. I always wanted to perform and I always wanted to sing and I always wanted to create like a spectacle. And so with that, she put me into piano lessons and I ended up actually learning the Suzuki method. So I learned by ear first before I actually read music. So I'm really actually terrible at reading like sheet music. And then from that, I guess maybe my ear, like I just started singing, truthfully. It just came out of my mouth. And from that, my mom was like, okay, I'll put you in singing lessons. And then once high school finished, and I was like, I love my area and love Tecumseh, but it's a very small town. And if I want to take myself seriously, I need to move to a bigger area.
And so that's how you made the transition to go to Toronto and stuff. And I love that you say that about you just had an ear for music. You can't read sheet music. I hear so many musicians I don't even know any off the top of my head, but I've just heard so many stories like that. Even famous ones that are in huge bands now and stuff that's how they learn. They just with their ear and they still to this day can't read sheet music.
Like if I were to read it, I would be sitting there for a very long time. It would not entertain anyone.
For sure. Now, was there an inspiration? Did you have a favorite singer, artist growing up that you emulated?
I would say it's multiple artists for sure. My mom used to always play music, and I would say Celine Dion was a really big influence in my life for sure. Even her French music, like her Francophone music when she was younger, Elton John, Andrea Bocelli, Sarah McLachlan, Mariah Carey. Honestly, if anybody you can name, Whitney Houston, my mom would play, and I'd collect all of her CDs and cassettes, and that was my life. I just lived with my Walkman in my bed, and that's how I used to fall asleep, truthfully.
I love the Walkman. I remember even, this is outdate me here, but I even sat at like some Sunday nights or Saturday nights, I'd get when you could record like the radio and stuff and record like different like DJ sessions off like 103.5. And
Yeah. Yeah.
the radio was way better back then.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, that's how you discovered music, truthfully, right? There was no kind of algorithm that was sending you something that you may already be listening to. So everything became a huge shock. And yeah, it's definitely music has evolved for sure. But those would be my greats or my biggest influences for me.
That's awesome. I remember even remember Columbia House? Do you remember where you could order the CDs? They would come in the mail and you would just, you'd order them for $2 and you get 20 of them or whatever. And my
Honestly,
mom would,
I would go to like the dollar store or like Shoppers or something, and you could buy them in like a stack of 100.
oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and then my mom would bought us the like big binder where you could fit like 3 and 3 across, and like, you could just flip through, and yeah, it was great.
Or that, or then I used to pirate the music, burn CDs off the internet. And
Sorry, I did it too.
I know. And this show is about mental health as well. And I found your song because you were working with a person I know, AR, and he was producing for you and stuff like that. And that song really touched home. It was all about vulnerability. And what was that song a little all about there? Tell us a little bit about that song and what the name of it was.
Yeah, absolutely. So the song is called Last Dance. And I went through an experience where someone super close to me was dealing with addiction. And I really got to see it full face up front. Cause it's one thing when you hear about it, right? It's one thing when you hear about it, when you hear a story, but actually physically seeing someone in a space where they're hopeless, it really triggered something in me in the sense of how can I write from a perspective where it may be affecting me, but who is it really affecting? And instantly, when I was caught in this situation, I thought of if this were my kid, if this were my daughter or son or whomever, if that was the case, how would I feel? And so, truthfully, I wrote from the perspective of a mom. And my perspective if I were a mom. And so that's where the song kind of unfolded. And even reading books and autobiographies and things like that, you're truthfully, sometimes in certain situations, parents will try and just do whatever they can and hold on as long as they possibly can. And in the situation that I was a part of, that was the case. And that was where those kind of lyrics were driven from.
It was a very powerful message. And anyone that's listening to this episode, you really should go check out Alyssa Gill's song Last Dance. It touched me just coming from my side as a recovering addict and stuff like that. You hit so many nails on the coffin there just with the powerful words, your voice. You just projected it out there in such an amazing way and a positive way though, too.
Yeah, it's all to me, I look at it as we all have to be able to help as much as we possibly can. And no matter what, you need to be there and help guide that person. And I think the message of the song was knowing that you are that hand, but hoping that they understand that they're the other hand as well. And that's where the last dance plays in because you don't know if that's your last dance.
Now, is that person still around or have they passed on now or?
Nope, they're still around. They're doing well. They've gotten help, so that's great. I'm really happy for them. It's a one day at a time circumstance. I think that a lot of the times, even me, myself, I've been in situations where it's why can't you just figure it out or why can't you just get better, and it's not that simple and it's not that easy. And when you love someone so much, that frustration can come out in that sense. So it's not really and like not having sympathy, it's more so you just love that person so much you just wish that you could get that same. One of the references is take me back to 22 when you were so alive your colors could light up the sky, and you hold on to those special moments and you wish that those moments could last. But understanding that it's a one day at a time and it's a stepping stone is truthfully, I think, the best way to approach addiction and mental health and recovery.
100%. And I love that you say that again. Like one day at a time, it really hits home for me because until I figured it out that it was one day at a time and not worrying about what's going to happen in the future because you can't predict the future. Just it's 1 minute at a time. If you got to get 5 minutes at a time, one
Yeah.
hour at a time. And now we're coming up on 3 years for myself, which is amazing. But I was in and out of those rooms and in and out of recovery for many years before that. Just I get a little bit in and then I'd be like, all right, I got this. I can do it all on my own. We're good to go again. And nope, back to square one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
And
following that routine, those types of things, and falling back into the same traps, hanging out with the same people again.
yeah, I think that the reference that you just made of falling back or not having a routine and going back and hanging out with the same people that that kind of puts you in an influential spot of going back to those old habits is super important. And so that's why I always say there's only so, again, last song is about there's only so much that person could do, but being there when the time is right and necessary. You can't control someone's actions and you can't act for someone. So we're all going to do what we want to do whenever we want to do it. There, whether that's we have to deal with the consequence or something, or it's a positive action. But being the support system there when that person is ready to take the next step, I think is the most important. And trying not to hold that, whether it's resentment or anger or sadness, and yeah, just try and be an open book is the best way to explain it, which is really hard to do.
It is even be an active listener and non-judgmental as well with whatever they're going through, because you never know what someone is going through, whether they're having a bad day walking down the street and you've said hi, but maybe they told you to fuck off, but you don't know what they're going through. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
At the end of the
No,
day.
so true. And I try so hard in my life to play devil's advocate if I go through situations like that, or I see someone who's dealing with something or dealing with mental health, or dealing with addiction. It's what kind of brought this on, or what is it from their perspective that I'm not understanding? Because it's being able to play that devil's advocate just allows you to be a bit more understanding.
100%. And just being able to understand and be there for someone, just being that support system. And since getting clean again, I've had such an amazing support system, and I've gained lots of things back into my life. Or people haven't, for instance, my fiance, she hasn't left my side. She's the one that stuck by my side, helped me while I was at my rock bottom, held my hand and picked me up and walked me along the way like I was a little baby again almost. And it was the most compelling thing just to have that help and that support from your family and the friends, the true friends that you do have and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And congratulations, by the way. That's so awesome. 3 years. That's great. Yeah, it's a stepping stone. I do think that we have to be willing to help ourselves. And when you get into that state and when you can realize, that's when the support system is the most important. And not everybody gets there, not everybody gets that. And it's unfortunate, truthfully. I couldn't imagine me myself having the support system that I do. Like, extremely close to my family. I'm extremely close to my colleagues and my producers and my writers. And I have different groups of friends that I could call when they need me, and they'll be like, tell me where and when, and I'm there for you. And that to me is probably one of the most important things, if not the most important thing in life. Because what do you have otherwise if you don't have the ones that you love or have support?
Exactly. Like, and you should never take anyone or anything or your loved ones for granted because tomorrow they could be gone.
Exactly. I'm actually writing a song about that.
Nice. Can't wait to hear that one.
Yeah, so it's for another artist, and the song's actually called Tomorrow, and it's the concept of knowing that tomorrow may not come, so live in the moment.
Be present.
Be present. And I'm a victim of it too. Like, I don't want to say victim, but I blame myself for being lost in my phone sometimes, or being not attentive, or maybe if I'm with my family, like I take a phone call when I should just really be in that moment. So yeah,
I'm guilty as charged from a lot of those things too. Like, I think lots of us are, it's that day and age, but I catch myself all the time, or when someone's trying to talk to me, I'm just down on my phone, or when my daughter or son's trying to talk to me, just even just put the phone away, leave it at home or whatever. Maybe bring it to take a picture, but you don't need to be on it the whole time. You don't always have to be out there taking pictures of everything. Just remember those memories in your head.
it's so true. I've been so now I set my do not disturb on my phone at 9:30 p.m. So, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit of a night owl. I put it on at 9:30, and if you try and call me or you message me, unless I'm physically in my phone, I just won't hear it. So it gives me a little bit of time away to not hear that ding or that vibrate or something.
Or even, yes, or even I have to go into the phone, like you said too, or whatever, but usually it goes to sleep and then nothing goes off, and all my apps shut down at a certain time too. And
Yeah.
yes, I have to actually physically go in and open them up and do a few more processes if I want to go in, sort of thing. Sometimes it deters me, sometimes it doesn't, but I can be a night owl as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a problem. I need to, but it's hard because all my writing's in the evening. So
Yeah.
it is the life that I live for now, and once I start releasing music and things progress in that sense, then it won't be so bad.
You'll have a little more of a structure and stuff like that.
Exactly, exactly.
So what is the most important thing you've learned about your mental health this year?
Oh my god, that's a really good question. I think I would have to say, for me specifically, for my mental health, that I've noticed is not to sweat the small things. I feel like sometimes we can get so carried away with.
Would you get really anxious, you'd say, like, over some so minuscule that doesn't need to be blown up out of proportion? Sounds just like me.
Yeah, I would say it's a combination now that you're stimulating my brain. I would say it's a combination of that and being okay with who I am where I am. And I feel like sometimes there can be a lot of pressure put on people, especially. And listen, I'm on Instagram. I love Instagram, but I also hate Instagram and I hate TikTok. And I think it puts a lot of pressure on having things and needing to look a certain way and needing to be or act a certain way. I think that was really affecting my mental health and can affect my mental health. It still does. I always have to remind myself, take a step back, like you're healthy, you're happy, you have a family, you have a roof over your head, you have food in the fridge, you have water that you can drink that's clean. Like, girlfriend, chill out. So
No, it's true.
I every once in a while I'll get to that point and then and something will happen and I'll be like, wow, it's almost to me, it's almost like a message or you know what I mean? Like a sign being like, you need to just relax.
Now, do you feel it's more, I don't know, so many people I've talked to lately, do you feel it was like somewhat of that imposter syndrome? You know, feeling that you had to be like these people out there or that individual or this individual and those types of things, or they're not going to like me if I'm not like this. I was like that too when I started my podcast. Oh, is anyone going to like this? But at the end of the day, who gives a shit? As long as it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what I put out now. Like, I sometimes I have to think, or sometimes my fiance, like, I have ADHD, so I will sporadically just be like, all right, let's do this. And she's like, no, we are not doing that.
She's wait a second. I will
That
be
idea is like a little far out in left field.
yeah. Oh my god, that's so funny. I mean, I think that the ideology of like perfection these days is a little nuts. And I say that just honestly. I think the scale of which we believe we need to be perfect and that could just be in my life, truthfully. It could just be the things that I see in the not so much the people that I'm around, but maybe the experiences that I have. I feel like perfection is just it's a red dragon. And
We're the our own worst enemies some days on ourselves. Because I feel I've been that same way as well with, "Oh, I don't like the way I just created that post or this piece of content. All right, I'm gonna delete it and start over." And I look back, I was like, why did I just do that? Like I literally tweaked one thing and then now I think it's the best thing ever.
yeah, yeah, it's so true. Or it's like seeing a photo and being like, "Oh, I can't post that. I look too fat," or "Oh, I can't post that. Like you can see this," or "Oh, if I post this, like my laugh is too loud and it's obnoxious." And it's just remembering that those things don't matter and just be yourself and don't sweat the small things. Like chill the f out.
Exactly. Just enjoy life. Ah, I don't care.
You know,
We're not on radio or
just I figured.
no worries. But yeah, no, it's so true. I love that you said don't sweat the small stuff. Don't worry about those little small things, a little minuscule thing that fell out of place or whatever. It's okay. It really is. Worry about the big picture. Worry about the things that really matter. Did that toy that fell over? I'm just using examples or something that fell off the shelf. Is that a big thing? It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. So I think that's probably what I've noticed the most over this past like year to 2 years, especially coming out of COVID. It all just happened at once. And I think everybody's kind of experiencing the same thing right now is now that we're all seeing each other and we're back together again. So what do I look like? And what is this? And what is that? And then do I have this? And do I have that? And it's just it seems to be a lot right now. I just notice at least. And that could just
No,
be
I know my anxiety heightens sometimes too, especially like I've never been the greatest with money and those types of things. But then I was talking to a financial lady, like a financial advisor lady, today, she's helping me with a budget, and I was just freaking out, like almost, and thinking about, oh, I still need this much money for our wedding and this and that. And
I know.
then my fiance says, Chris, just chill out. We will get this all figured out. Don't worry. She has to reel me back down sometimes.
Yeah, it's just like all circles back to like my main point is like you said, she brought you back to be like, relax, don't worry, it'll happen. And when you have the people that you love and you care about around you, the monetary or the materialistic or the tangible things don't matter as much.
Not at all. And that's what I love. We're very minimalistic to an extent, and we don't need all those things. We just need ourselves, need the roof over our head, and we're good.
Yeah, great.
Well, what are your top three tips you would give someone just starting out in the music industry if they were just starting out today?
Oh gosh.
I know you've just recently started in the last couple of years, but Obviously, you learned a few things, you learned some tricks of the trade, so.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And listen, I've been in the industry for a while. I would say just more so this like kind of recent project that I'm working on, which is a little bit of a larger scale project, has been the past couple years. But I would say tip number one, always be open to working with people no matter where their kind of levels are in regards to fame or their claim. I think sometimes independent artists can be super underestimated.
I hear you there. I know some really good ones, and I remember and now they're blowing up too.
Yeah, and talent is talent to me. If you have it, if you don't, you don't. And so the only way you can learn is by working with people. And when you work with people and you do like them, you grow. And when you work with people and you don't like them, you grow as well because you know where your path is narrowed down to. So I would say that's number one. Number two would be know what you want. I feel like a lot of times, even for me, for example, when I was starting my writing and my recording and figuring out my path, I had a very different idea of what I wanted until now. And I'm 30 now. Back when I was starting this process, I was probably like 23, 24. I didn't really know what I wanted. So it's hard when you're young and trying to figure out the path and who you are. So having a bit more of a clear vision and not letting other people persuade your path is super important, I think, as well for people who are just starting out. Because you're going to get that in the industry. People are going to be like, oh, well, you have blonde hair and you have blue eyes. You should sing country, or you have this and you have that. You should do this. Or it's everybody will have an opinion and an
It's
idea.
such a cutthroat industry, isn't it?
So cutthroat, or oh, you know what? Well, you could do this, but you may need to lose 10 pounds, or you have to do this. You need to. It is. It's very
Just be you. Be who you are, be your own authentic self, and things will fall into place where they need to, when they need to, at the time they need to. Things happen for a reason. If
one
it doesn't happen, there's always another hurdle to go over.
100%. And listen, opportunities have been placed in my lap and things come and go. And I truthfully believe everything happens for a reason. Because if some of those opportunities would have come to fruition, I wouldn't be making the music that I am right now. And truthfully, I think it's some of the best and most vulnerable music that I've written so far. I try to write very authentically and very literal because I feel like that's what everybody wants to hear. We want to hear about the true stories about love and the true stories about heartache and the true stories about when that person just didn't love you as much, or when that person left your life, and or if someone's dealing with mental health issues or depression or anxiety, actually literally talking about them is what I try and do instead of creating an illusion or like a metaphor around the actual topic.
And then I feel lots of artists are starting to do a lot more of that, whether it's about anxiety, depression, or their personal life experiences. I have a one of my favorite artists. I've had the chance to interview him and stuff too, but he's in recovery too. He's been about 6, 7 years clean, but he's been making music long before that. But Kalichi is his name, out of Pittsburgh, and but he just speaks from the heart of his like life experiences. Or he's made several songs for his daughter, like at different stages in her life and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's beautiful just to see the things that he creates, though
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. It's so
Where
true.
there's so many artists out there doing that, and that's what I like to see. You don't need to be talking about gang banging and rapping and that stuff's old, man. Leave those to the '90s guys.
Yeah, and listen, it's always gonna be there and it's always gonna be
Yeah.
relevant. It's just, yeah, I would say, yeah, number 2 would definitely be don't let be who you are and write what you wanna write, and don't let the industry persuade that because it will. And then I would say lastly, if you are independent, own what you have as long as you possibly can, because the moment that you give a portion or a fraction or half of what you own up, you are now losing money. So own what you have. And even if it's grassroots, or even if your path takes you a little bit longer to get to, at least at this point, I know I own 100% of my music. And if I wanted to release and something happened, it's all mine and I don't have to pay any pie. Besides,
That's the way to go. Yes, it might take you a little longer, like you said. And there's so many amazing independent artists out there these days. Like it's a lot more prevalent than it was 15, 20 years ago now. Like lots of them most of them are independent now. Not all of them, but lots of these bigger names that I'm seeing pop up now. Lots of them are independent.
yeah. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, if the right deal comes around and it makes sense, absolutely. But know, yeah, know what you're signing, know what you're getting into, know what those numbers mean, know publishing and mastering, how those are divvied up and what it means to be a songwriter and what it means to be a producer and sound engineer. All those things matter. And the cut that Spotify gives or the cut that the label takes, what that means and what advances mean. There's so much to the artist that goes on behind scenes that so many people don't know, and even artists themselves don't know. So I think educating yourself on that, which I'm still learning, like I still don't know everything. I'm still learning, but the
You
more
hear that, everyone? She doesn't know everything.
no, I don't know everything. But I'm trying to I'm learning as I go and each situation.
Educate yourself.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
each
anything in life
situation
you're
I
trying to
face.
learn.
Yeah, I learn even more the next time around. Yeah, it's
YouTube tells you lots of things. Read articles, do your own homework, do your own research. That's how I've learned lots just doing the podcast and how to create things and do things now. I'm able to do it all on my own. I don't have to ask. I'd like to ask for help sometimes, but now I'm actually editing other people's shows and stuff like that. It's lots of fun. It creates little side hustles and those types of things. Create little side hustles. Do those things in life.
yeah, exactly. 100%. So yeah, those would be the three things that I would say.
Those are three amazing things. They're great things. So hopefully everyone can take something away from those three great things that Alyssa shared with you guys today about getting into the music industry when you're first starting out. How do you pick the right people on your team to accomplish your dream?
Gosh. I honestly want to say that the universe has just connected me with them. Truthfully, everybody
That's the best way, isn't it?
yeah, everybody that I've worked with so far, I've met through someone somehow because I ended up going to something that they were at and we introduced each other. We had an introduction and then had a session. And then it's just our energies matched and collided. And my main producer, Jules Lynch, he's my ride or die. We do virtually everything together. And then I have another team that I work with Ashkan AR and another producer named Greg. Those are like my two little groups, I would say, that I work with. And they, again, the universe just brought them to me. I met Ash like probably 10 years ago, and we just reunited like a year or two ago. And now we're just creating amazing music and writing for other artists as well. And then Jules, yeah, I've known for the past like 4 years, I want to say. And we created the last EP that I released, which was during COVID. It was 2020. And then this current EP that I'm going to be releasing hopefully soon is we've worked on as well.
No, 100%. And before we go though,
Yeah.
which international artist, I got one last question. Which international artist would you want to bring back to life?
Ooh,
If you
international
could bring, I
artist
guess Canada's international, any artist.
that's currently not living. I would have to say probably Michael Jackson.
He's a game changer. He was
Yeah,
so much of my
it's
childhood.
international as it the States, but he was just I know he suffered with his own kind of mental health issues and
Oh yeah.
he had his ups and downs, obviously, as the media says. Yeah, he just
But one of the most purest of purest talents though, like just from a young age.
like he could literally create a whole song with just his mouth. Like if you watch even some of his
And choreograph it too, about
yeah,
5 minutes later.
and he did it. He would just like beatbox the bass, and then you'd get the drums, and then you'd get the hi hats, and then he'd get keys in there, and it would all just be from his mouth, all just knowing how it blends in together through his brain. Like that to me is just that's a whole different level.
I think for me, I'd love to bring back Freddie Mercury.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah, for
I
sure.
remember watching like old videos of Queen and growing up as a child in the 80s and
I
stuff
mean,
like that.
his voice, the fact that, and this is where the talent now. Don't get me wrong, we have amazing, talented artists that
Yeah.
are in this world, but they didn't have take two right away. They didn't have Melodyne. They didn't have auto tune. It
No,
was you recorded the whole take on the record player or on, and I don't even know what they were called. I'm sorry, I
I
don't.
think they did analog back then even.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, exactly. And you had to nail that take and you had to nail every take and your harmonies had to be nailed each time. because there was no like erasing something and then punching something in or, oh, let me just fix that note. No, it was okay. We have to do the whole take again because you didn't get that note. So your singing and your pitch was, oh, to me, I think a different level than
Oh yeah, a whole different level. Even go back to, yeah, all these guys that never made it past 27 years, like Jimmy Morrison from The Doors, man, just a phenomenal poet. Like, I love reading his books too and stuff. And
yeah.
he's just another genius.
Yeah, it was definitely a different time.
We didn't grow up in the right era.
I know, no. But you know what? We've been through a lot of different changes, especially the 90s babies go through a lot of like technological changes. So it's cool to be a part of that. I see a change in music happening. I do. I'm hearing a bit of that like 70s, 80s, 90s vibe kind
It's
of
coming back. There's a couple bands out there that are like, there's one, I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but they're in their mid-20s, but they remind me totally of Zeppelin.
yeah, it's coming, it's happening. I
Yeah.
think the ear is coming back. We lost it for a bit. I won't lie. I wasn't listening to the radio. I wasn't listening to mainstream because it just I couldn't.
I've always been an underground hip hop guy.
Yeah.
Even from the late 90s, early 2000s, it's always been underground for me.
Yeah. I mean that was the best time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
But before we go, Alyssa, where can everyone find you, find your music? You have a website they can go to,
Yeah, absolutely.
social media.
So my website is alyssagillmusic.com. You can find me there. Basically, all my handles are Alyssa Gill Music, whether that's TikTok. I don't really have a huge, I would say, Twitter presence. So Instagram, my website, and TikTok, it's Alyssa Gill Music.
Thank you again for taking the time out of your day to come on the show and share your story, share your experience, share some great tips, and just have a great chat. I truly enjoyed my time. I remember one day at a time, everyone.
Yes, one day at a time. So important. Thank you so much for having me. This is great. Honestly, it was nice to
No problem.
have a good,
Anytime.
honest talk. Yeah.
I love it. It's great to have these chats.
Yeah. I agree.
I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, though.
Thank you, you too.